Ferrari is the luxury car brand. Just to get one, you had to wait for years, and when you got it, you had a list of rules to follow. Yet, for decades, that's what made it special. It's the exclusive car few people can get, but that's changing. One man came in with a plan to reinvent Ferrari. They're now selling more cars than ever, but not everyone is happy about that, and the ripple effects are starting to unravel everything that made the brand untouchable. The business model of Ferrari is a paradox. On the surface, a company that sells products for hundreds of thousands of dollars would want to sell as many as possible. And Ferraris are always expensive. Even the entry-level models are around $230,000 to $280,000. But the most exclusive, performance-driven cars go up past $1 million. But Ferrari has no problem selling these ones either. In fact, people line up on wait lists just to get one. So if you can sell $1 million product, scaling production to match demand seems like the best strategy, right? Well, Ferrari actually built its entire empire on the opposite principle. For much of its history, Ferrari's strategy was not about fulfilling demand, but something else, what I'd call courting the demand. The demand always had to be greater than the supply, and this wasn't a choice driven by manufacturing limitations. It was a deliberate, calculated business decision. The company's former chairman famously stated they would always sell one less car than the market demands. But why? Why not sell more cars if people will buy them? Well, basically, the nature of Ferrari's business is built on an absurd set of rules designed to maximize the brand value. Not only do they limit production, but they also create a financial and social gatekeeping system to control who gets to own their cars. Take a look back at 2015. Ferrari shipped exactly 7,664 cars globally. That's it. They purposefully kept this number low, knowing they could sell far more. If you wanted a new Ferrari, you couldn't just walk into a dealership and buy one. Even if you have the money, they'll run a background check on you to see how you treat past cars. After that, you pay a deposit and wait. If you want to buy a standard Ferrari, it might be a couple of months. But if you want a new or luxury Ferrari, you'll usually have to go on a wait list, one you could be on for multiple years. And even if you own a Ferrari or even multiple Ferraris, it's nearly impossible to get on the VIP list or get a limited edition Ferrari. You can quickly see why this builds desire. If you have to wait 3 years for a car, it becomes a genuine status symbol regardless of how much money you have. But the absurdity goes even deeper, just like the markets. We all know investing.com, but I want to talk about their flagship product, Investing Pro. I've been using it as a legit research companion, especially when I'm breaking down companies in videos like this. Think of it like having a full financial workstation built into one dashboard. You get fair value models, advanced fundamentals, historical financials, and some really smart AI tools that help you spot stuff you'd probably miss on your own. One of the most interesting parts of the platform is Warren AI. Think of it like a research assistant built on top of investing.com's data. You ask a real investing question and it pulls details, financial context, and explanations instantly. It is a simple way to understand what is going on with a company without digging through 10 different sources. Then there's ProPicks AI, which gives you strategies that have actually outperformed the market. If you want value stocks, you click value, and it shows a full list that has beaten benchmarks. You can explore ideas inspired by legendary investors like Warren Buffett, Ray Dalio, and many more, and save a ton of time figuring out which companies deserve a closer look. I totally recommend you try it, as it would help you make better investment decisions regardless if you're a beginner or an experienced investor. And if you want to invest, Investing Pro is running their Cyber Monday promo, extending their amazing Black Friday discount right now. You get 60% off plus an extra 15% when you use my code LogicallyAnswered or click the link in the description. It is the lowest price of the year. Don't miss out. Thank you to investing.com for sponsoring this video. Once you were finally allowed to purchase a Ferrari, you were immediately hit with corporate rules. In most cases, you couldn't sell your new Ferrari for so many months, often up to 2 years. And this is especially odd considering Ferrari's customers are extremely wealthy, but it's a non-negotiable rule. But there's more. If you dared to customize your Ferrari in a way the company deemed inappropriate, or if you sold your car too early, you could find yourself banned from future purchases. Or technically, you would be put further down the list, which in the world of Ferrari is the same as a permanent ban. And the crazy part is that there were no exceptions. Ferrari has, at least reportedly, blacklisted celebrities like Kim Kardashian and Justin Bieber for breaking these rules. So why go through all this trouble? Why annoy the world's wealthiest, most powerful customers with layers of corporate control? The reason is a concept known as artificial scarcity, and it's simple economics. Products have supply and demand. If supply decreases but demand stays the same, price goes up. And sometimes demand does too, because rarity itself fuels desirability. By tightly controlling the number of units released, Ferrari guaranteed that every single car leaving the factory was instantly valuable. Unlike most luxury cars which lose half their value the moment they leave the lot, a Ferrari usually holds its price or even goes up. The whole idea of keeping Ferraris rare did two big things for the brand. First, it protected the owners. People weren't just buying a car, they were buying something that held its value. That kind of trust keeps owners coming back for their next Ferrari. Second, it built the myth. By making the cars hard to get, Ferrari created the feeling that only a few people deserve one. Since Ferraris are hard to get, preventing reselling stabilizes the car's secondary market value, decreasing another supply. But why don't they allow custom Ferraris then? Surely celebrities want their luxury car just right. Well, they do have a service called Tailor-Made, where you can customize the Ferrari, but this is very strict. Ferraris want their cars to look like, well, Ferraris, the symbol of status and prestige. Plus, massive changes look cool to one customer, but to another, maybe not, so it protects the resale value. Ferrari is a master at keeping the perceived value and rarity of Ferraris sky high, and that's what kept them on top for decades. But one man planned to change that. In June 2021, Ferrari appointed a new CEO, Benedetto Vigna, and Vigna wasn't a car guy in the traditional sense. He actually came from the microchip industry. However, he had a clear mandate. Ferrari had to modernize and, more importantly, accelerate revenue growth. Vigna believed Ferrari was falling behind. It was far too slow and too bureaucratic. When the environmental condition is changing at high speed, you need to have a team that is able to adapt at high speed. But this went deeper. The company, he believed, was leaving billions of dollars on the table by clinging to the old scarcity model. And his idea was pretty simple: to offer more kinds of Ferraris to capture new customer segments. The old philosophy of only making two-door sports cars was outdated. To grow, Ferrari needed to tap into the most lucrative segments of the automotive market. And to do so came the introduction of the Purosangue. That's right, a Ferrari SUV. Ferrari insists it's not, but as you can see, it was designed to compete with luxury utility vehicles. Even so, the SUV segment is the juggernaut of car models. It's the go-to for high-income families, and virtually every other luxury brand from Porsche to Aston Martin to even Lamborghini had one. Vigna believed Ferrari was falling behind, and the Purosangue was Ferrari's attempt to catch up. But that was just the beginning. Vigna also expanded the traditional lineup to include more models, like the Amalfi GT and the Dodici Cilindri Touring GT. This was a clear sign that Ferrari was broadening its appeal far beyond the old fans. Though, to protect the illusion of scarcity, Ferrari explicitly capped the Purosangue at only 20% of total production, and even paused new orders at launch. Yet, at this point, the message was impossible to miss. Ferrari was shifting from a philosophy of one less car to more models for more people. But do you remember what Vigna said earlier about environmental conditions changing? He wasn't just talking about bureaucracy or SUVs. He wanted Ferrari to go electric. In 2022, Ferrari announced some truly aggressive targets. The plan was to rapidly phase out the traditional ICE engine, which is the heart and soul of the brand. By 2026, Ferrari wanted their portfolio to be 60% hybrid and full electric with only 40% ICE. By 2030, the target was to have an offering composed of only 20% ICE with 40% hybrid and 40% electric. For Ferrari, this was huge. Ferrari was the classic race car, the luxury sports car you hear from miles away. Intentionally too, I'll add. Only 20% ICE Ferraris by 2030 was an almost unimaginable scenario for the purists. But something else makes all of this even stranger. At the time of the announcement, Ferrari had 0 full battery electric models on sale. They had plug-in hybrids like the SF90, but no battery EVs. All customers knew was that an EV was coming soon, but Ferrari was betting that its brand power was so strong it could successfully navigate this massive technological shift while maintaining its premium position. They believed the Ferrari badge, the prancing horse, was enough to carry them from ICE to EVs. So, was it? Some fans were ecstatic, but a few saw cracks forming. Over the next few years, everything seemed to be going well, at least according to the corporate balance sheets. But in reality, something else was happening. Ferrari shipments continued to climb dramatically. 2015, 7,664 cars shipped. 2019, passed 10,000 for the first time in history. 2023 hit a record 13,663 shipments. Yet even with this rapidly increasing volume, orders were still maxed out, booked out for years in advance. Ferrari's revenue began to soar, as did their earnings and their stock price. Vigna was successfully delivering on the promise of short-term financial acceleration. But as you would guess, this kind of rapid volume growth has its consequences. During the soaring profits, the customers, people whose wealth and loyalty built the brand, began to feel the squeeze. In 2025 came the new EV, the Ferrari Elettrica. Yet soon after, something unexpected happened. Ferrari had to cut EV targets from 40% to 20% of the mix by 2030. Why? Weak demand. For the first time, people weren't buying Ferraris, at least electric Ferraris. They also delayed their second EV model to at least 2028. The share price immediately tumbled 16%, wiping out 13.5 billion euros from Ferrari's market cap. Investors were getting concerned, but not just about EVs. How many Ferraris could Vigna actually sell before the brand started to feel too common and lose exclusivity? Was Ferrari losing its pricing power? The new prices of Ferraris are going up, but they're less rare than they used to be. With more Ferraris on the road than ever before, that secondary market and car value buyers care about started to drop. Ferraris began to depreciate faster than ever before.
Let's say you bought a plug-in hybrid SF90 Stradale a few years ago. You might want to look away. Some are now selling for 30% less than new. That's potentially a $200,000 hit.
Even the Purosangue, Ferrari's so-called game changer designed to open new markets, is already losing value. Something else is happening. When Ferrari offered the LaFerrari a decade ago, which was the definitive Ferrari, the uber-rich fought tooth and nail to be on the invitation list. In 2024, Ferrari unveiled the F80, a new flagship to replace the LaFerrari. But this time, the reaction was different. One longtime Ferrari fan wrote, "Now, some people who have been given the opportunity to buy an F80 are actually stopping to think about it." That is like being offered a winning lottery ticket and asking if the font on the numbers is correct. It's as though we've gone from, "I can't believe I'm lucky enough to pay to get on this list," to, "I can't believe how much I have to pay just to be on this list." The romance has been replaced with spreadsheets and calculations. People aren't rushing to buy because they love the cars. They're hesitating because they're not sure if it's a good investment. A $719,000 SF90 was sold after driving only 185 miles for $579,000. That's a $140,000 loss, which works out to about $760 per mile driven. Such a steep drop with such low mileage on a Ferrari is not normal. The financial elite who once fought over the most exclusive models are now hesitating. Ferrari is now trying to push the brakes. Ferrari is now scaling back sales to ease this problem and is cutting allocation to certain markets to inflate demand. But this doesn't make investors too happy who want more sales and thus more profits. To Vigna's credit, Ferrari is making more money than ever before, but customers seem less excited about them than ever. I worry they're sacrificing the long-term health of their brand. Speaking of brands, we're working on crossing 1 million subscribers. If you haven't subscribed already, I would really appreciate if you did. It seems like Ferrari is in a tug-of-war between satisfying investors or customers. They're becoming more of a volume luxury brand, not an exclusive one. If the cars start to lose value, the entire reason for buying a Ferrari, the financial and social exclusivity, starts to crumble. That artificial demand that they've cultivated for decades might fall apart. Has Ferrari sacrificed the long term for the short term? Only time will tell. Another luxury car brand that's feeling the pain even more is Porsche, which went hard into EVs and is now regretting it all. Check out this video to learn more, but until then, I'm Hari, and I'll see you guys on the next one.